Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from AlexMercedCoder.dev, and this is going to be video number 2. So in the first video, we set up our Mongo connection. So basically we set up the basics of our Express app. Really not even the basics of our Express app, just we got ourself connected to Mongo. We were able to test that connection to Mongo. We know that it works. Now we can continue forward. So now let's start sketching out our Express app. Okay. So what I'm going to do is head over to our server.js. And first things first, I always like to kind of like section everything out so it's all easy to understand. So dependencies. So because first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in anything we need to import is going to go into there. Here we're going to have, our app object. That's where we're going to declare our application. Then we're going to have our middleware. Then we're going to have our route and routers. So any routes and routers will be registered over here. And then we'll have our server listener. Okay, now it's all nice and organized. So things we're going to want to import is we're going to want to import const express. So equals require express. We're going to want to bring in more again. And actually, let me make sure I bring in that .env. Require .env .config. And a cool thing about like the .env is like technically this config argument can actually receive an object that, if I remember right, has, yeah, there it is. Like it has a value called path. So if you wanted to use like a different file other than .env, you could actually say, okay, hey, here's the path to the file, and say, hey, use this file instead. Or here's where there's different. Basically, the idea is you can change how it works. Again, if you ever want to look up how you do that, all you have to do is head over to npm.js, and you can look up any of these npm libraries to learn more about how they work. So I would just look up .env, and then there it is, .env, and then I can go like read the documentation. So I can like see here, see right there, it's like the basic usage, like what I just did, but there's other things we can do. So let me see if it shows you where the configurations are. Here we go, config. Options, here we go, path, specify a custom path. So if you want to, so here we like, where is your, if you want to pass it to a particular file and not use like just the default .env file. Encoding, debug, override, there's a bunch of other stuff you can do here. Okay, so the point is, like a lot of these libraries, they do a lot of cool stuff. You just have to go read the documentation, and you sometimes will discover cool things. Okay, but const express, const Morgan equals require Morgan, method override, equals require method override. Okay, const, what else did we install? Take a look at my package.json. Anything else I'm not thinking of? Well, we got Mongo taken care of, Morgan, method override, express, cjs.env. Okay, so I think we're good. That's what I need to import for now. So now we can go declare our application object, const app equals express. And then we can register middleware with the app. So we want to register, let's say Morgan. We'll use the dev script. We want to register method override. Okay, we're going to say, hey, override anytime you see this query, the underscore method query. We want to make sure we parse bodies. So we're going to add our body parsing middleware. So express.url encoded. Okay, extended equals true. It doesn't really matter if it's true or false for our purposes. App.use, anything else I want to add here? We may want to use our express.static middleware. So what I'll do, express.static, we'll say, and that's going to serve a public folder. I always like to give the static folder its own prefix, URL prefix. Like I don't have to. It could just be like, /static styles.css. But I always like having that slash static beforehand, so that way just I have a very clear delineation where my static assets are. So we're going to pass that URL prefix for this middleware and say, hey, this middleware only runs on URLs that start with slash static. So that way I can access my static assets. Okay. App.use, app. Anything else I want? I think I kind of got everything. I mean, I don't think I need express.json for our purposes. So I think middleware wise, we're good there. And then routes and routers. I always like just to create like a basic, you know, route for the main page just to test that the server's working. Rec res.send, server is working. And server.listener, app.listen. And then we're going to listen on process.env.port. Or actually, the better way to do this is to do this. We'll declare a variable const port, which equals process.env.port. So if there's an environmental variable defining the port, it's going to use that. But if for some reason there isn't one, it'll default to 3000. Okay? And then we just use the port variable here, and then we create our callback with, showing a little message saying that the server started. And we'll use backticks. So we'll say server is listening on port, and then we'll use the port variable there. So that way it's always referring to whatever variable, whatever number it is using. Okay, and then let's test that out. Okay, so let's see here. Git, actually no, first I want to do npm run dev server, so that works. Picked up on the environmental variable, so it's running on port 3333. So now if I go to localhost 3333 and I get servers working, so it is working. Okay, good. So we know our database connection is working. We know that server is working. We are in good shape. Okay, we got our app all set up now. So what I'm going to do is going to create a Git repository. So git init. Okay, I'm going to git add everything. And I'm going to do my first commit, git commit -m. Initial setup is complete. So this way you can go back and like look at my repo and take a look at the different commits to see how my files look like at a particular time. Okay, so I'll do that at the end of each of these videos. I'll do a commit, and that way you'll be able to come back and see the repo as it was at the end of that commit. So now let me actually get that up to GitHub. So what I do is I head over to github.com. I'm going to create a new repository. Call this Express Mongo's Sodas. Create the repository. I'm going to copy over this line right here, the git remote add origin. That's going to basically add that repo as an origin or as a remote. And now I can do git push origin main. And ta-da! You can now, and again, you can always click right over here where it says like one commit. I'll say like more commits as we go on. And you'll be able to see all those commits and be able to take a look at those files as they were at that time by just like clicking over here. So I'll see like there, view commit details, or actually right here. Browse the repository at this point in the history. So you can see like what the files look like at that point in time. Okay, so that's there. That'll be in the video description, but otherwise I will see you all in the next video, and we'll start building out our models.